Welcome back to Game of Jones. Last time we discussed how the party met and their first foray together. Now it's time for Chapter 1, The Dragon. As the party heads south through the forest towards Garrison, a city where the nation's armies are trained, they learn more about one another. Silver has decided to join the party as well, but is loaded with frivolous belongings. Myra befriends several woodland creatures and Eli goes off hunting on his own. He finds a body in the woods, blonde hair with an X carved into the forehead. The sun sets as he glances around the darkened woods. Back at camp, a shadow sneaks through the dark. Kirk is awakened as a knife is shoved into his side. He manages to throw the orcish assassin off, and the rest of the party springs into action to dispatch him. He reveals that he has been sent by Azok to kill Kirk for the murder of his brother, Udok, those years ago. Azok is trying to wrap up loose ends before some big plan coming up. The party sends him off with a message that Azok can do his own dirty work and move on. After 2 days, the party emerges on the coastline, and the fortress city is spread out in front of them. Silver leaves to go her own way, and the party discovers that the city is marking up the prices to a ridiculous line. Morn begins asking around for an underground market. Everyone enters into the fort and sees hundreds of martial and arcane soldiers training. Elijah is eager to see how things are proceeding here since he graduated and moved northwards. They are introduced to General Halen, an elvish woman who oversees the military and thanks them for their service. She tells them that Ilan has left instructions not to pay them, but does so anyway. Upon hearing of their duty, she asks if they could look into the matter of a darkened lighthouse off the coast that has been abandoned for months. The party agrees and hires a crazed one-armed sea captain who is obsessed with catching a massive shark found in these waters. While on the way to the island, the beast shows up, and in the process, Captain Keyes loses a leg to the beast. While he rests in the boat, the rest of the party disembarks to check out the lonely lighthouse. Moving down the beach, they discover black echoes that tell of the island's last day. Through these echoes, the party learns that a group of pirates attacked the island to raid the lighthouse keeper and his family. When interacted with, these shadows attack and drain the strength of their victims. While investigating, the party learns that Bet, the daughter of the lighthouse keeper, was tricked by a local inventor named Karnan, who locked her in a basement where she was set upon by rats and died. She rose as a revenant, seeking to draw people in to open her cage and let her out. She escapes and runs away southeast across the seas, desperate to catch her murderer. Elijah takes Karnan's notes and begins construction on the subject, a handheld firearm. Having made the island safe again, the party returns to General Halen to collect their reward, and she tasks them with locating a drug lord operating within the city known as the Dragon. He has been producing a narcotic known as Warmth that is a lot of the public in a drugged state. In addition, civilians have gone missing, and the Dragon may be involved. They have 2 days to do so, before a massive masquerade ball that the local nobility will be present for, perhaps including the Lord Regent. While investigating, Morn locates a series of caverns underneath the city, home to dozens of smugglers and other merchants selling black market goods. He meets with a kind-hearted shopkeeper named Sheda, who agrees to trade goods with the party. Myra makes a transaction of her own, buying a hamster from a strange old woman. She speaks with the hamster and discovers that there may be more to it than meets the eye, and he gives his name as Steve. They ask around the underground market, and 2 thugs named Felix and Soom approach them. They are associates of the Dragon and are recruiting for new crew members. Seizing this opportunity, they are led into an underground area where a masked figure tests them, his voice echoing in their minds. In order to be approved, they must pass the trials of the Dragon. These will test various abilities. First is the trial of choice, where the party is confronted with 2 items being dangled over a massive fire pit. They are told that one is an old relic from a bygone age, and the other a soul dragged in off the street. The party chooses the person and discovers that it is Morn's childhood friend, Sadani, an orphaned tiefling. Next up is the trial of haste, where Elijah is taken and imprisoned within a container slowly filling with water. The party solves a riddle and rescues him in time. Next is the trial of strength, in which the party must slay a pair of trolls, which they do so with little effort. Satisfied for now, they are dismissed, with a promise that the final trial will be made known to them in time. They head back to their inn, where Kirk enters into a ranked fight, losing in the finals by a smidge. In the bar is Silver, who is serving alcohol to patrons, and insists she has no idea where the barkeep is. She invites the party in for a nip of glowing alcohol she claims is Elbereth's enchanting elixir, the most expensive drink ever. The party is suspicious, but eventually drinks, with Myra being the exception. What the party doesn't know, however, is that inebriation from Elbereth's elixir isn't caused by the amount imbibed, but drawn from the total amount from the imbibation. For example, if you sip from a cup, you will be buzzed from that one sip as if you drank the entire cup. The party wakes the next day with no memories of the night before. Kirk finds himself in bed with Silver, wedding bands on their fingers, and a large egg resting on a bed with them. Meneth wakes up with a pair of blood-stained scissors. Morn wakes in the middle of town, naked and invisible in the city's fountain. Elijah awakes and discovers his firearm is missing. In its place is a magical timepiece with instructions to take to Zechariah Ezel. Throughout the day, the party retraces their steps and meets up in the burning ruins of a local pub. A wizened old man named Toril shows up and informs the party that they were ambushed here last night by some thugs, but in the fight a fire broke out. He asks if he can join them in their endeavors. The party agrees and adds the monk to their numbers. Toril was born and raised north in the Ephraim Mountains. He was present for the founding of a monastery and trained for decades to hone his body and mind. He learned from local orcs and giants as well. One day while out fishing with a local giant boy, he smelled smoke coming from the monastery. The place had been sacked by an orcish war pack, the monks slaughtered to a man. Toril took the young giant home and set about tracking the pack through the mountains. Though he was fit, he was in no shape to take on the full war party. He made them pay for their mileage, however, taking the odd orc, felling trees, and harrying them for weeks as they moved back home. He eventually stopped pursuing the band and stayed in the mountains for years, living off the land. Age started creeping up on him, and as the aches in his bones grew, he decided to travel, eventually ending up in Garrison. With the masquerade ball only hours away, the party buys the proper attire. Felix arrives and informs them that their final trial will be to assassinate the general at the ball that evening. Not only that, but there is another party who will be attempting the same task. Only one will be allowed entrance to the organization, so it is to be a race. The party knows the clock is ticking, and they have only a few hours to find and kill the dragon before the general is to be killed herself. They manage to track down the dragon's narcotics production facility and destroy it, but the masked figure is missing. Still wondering if they will be protecting the general or her killers, they attend the ball. Toril investigates the food offerings, while the others dance and seek out assassins amongst the masked attendees. Morn is courted by a strange man who tells them that the dragon used to be the member of an organization known as the Masked Lords. In the last few months, he has ceased communication and is no longer the same man. Morn has no time for this, however, and leaves to go back to the general. At that moment, a scream sounds out. The general is lying on the ground, bleeding from a fatal wound in her head. The silver-masked dragon is standing over her, blood dripping from under his mask. Myra sees a masked figure running away and gives chase. She confronts this mysterious figure, who turns out to be a dwarf berserker who almost kills her. The rest of the party chases after the dragon, who runs out through a window into the night. They eventually corner him in his hideout, but he disappears. Eventually, they find a hidden tunnel leading down deep beneath the city. In these passages are strange symbols and books. A massive chamber houses a dozen people chained to the walls who are slowly dissolving. The party burns them and several score of small eggs dotting the chamber. Above them, the dragon descends. He is levitating and assaults them, revealing himself to be a mind flayer stranded here from a distant plane of existence. He had taken over the body of the real dragon and had been using these drugs to pacify the masses in order to build his colony. A grueling battle ensues, and the party bests him. He plane shifts away in frustration, his plans in ruins. The party loots his lair and ascends, only to be met with a still-alive General Halen.